Hey, everybody. So we are live on a Thursday of all days, no less. Um, but we got a special edition going on here. Um, Wanted to bring on a special guest. We've been talking about doing this for a while. So what better time than a Thursday, and especially on a snow day here in Texas. In Texas, folks, listen to that. A snow day. That's almost that does not sound right coming out of my mouth and talking about Texas. So, but yes, we do have a snow day. There's snow outside, so we are there, and we're gonna say hello to a few people. Just saying hello, Mr. Arcelay Marcello. What is up, my friend? Our guest already in the house, Miss Sarah Stones. I've actually met her yesterday, so thank you for tuning in, Sarah. And yes, he is yay for snow, of course. Who doesn't love the snow day, even as a kid? Just as long as you get paid for it, right? Okay. All right, folks. Let's not hesitate this any longer. I wanted to bring on this gentleman. We've had a previous conversation, as a matter of fact, in my first season, I believe. I'm trying to remember if that's correct. But he was on my show, and I think we had a really great conversation when we were talking about it. But I wanted to bring him on because we're going to be talking about something that I discuss all the time, and we're going to have a few different thoughts and opinions on what it is. So we're going to be talking about community building and engagement, and why you might have a different look at it. So he's one of the co-founders of Black LinkedIn is Thriving. He also does, excuse me, folks. I feel like I got something in my throat. That's not cool. There we go. So he does also his Your Black News and Our Daily Nightly News, which you can follow that hashtag. I'll drop that down in the comments. But he does speak his mind, and he is very thorough in what he loves to share and talk about. So we're going to bring him on to talk about this as well. So we got more folks tuning in. Thank you so much, Mr. Carl Sean Watkins, Ms. Charlene Brown. How are you, folks? So without any further ado, folks, let's not bring this on longer. Let's bring on our guest, the man of the hour, Mr. Martin J. Pratt. What is up, brother?
Hey, man. How you doing from Philly, where it's 45 degrees at and raining. No snow out here. Now, last week, we was, where are you at? We were bogged down in salt.
Well, that's the funny thing. You guys are, not used to it, but you're more acclimated to deal with it than down here. I mean, it's down here, it's like if it snows, everything shuts down. I mean, nobody goes out nowhere, but he burrows in. Grocery stores are on panic.
I wanted to ask you about that. Is it that way? I lived in Houston in 3rd Ward. So in the hood, people would say that about Texas, but in the hood, the more less affluent neighborhoods will say people were out. They got stuff done. Now, to your point, when we got to near the Galleria or the center of Houston, center of town, it was definitely where there were more affluence at. Things were like, it's a ghost town. But in the hood, man, that corner store was still open. That bodega, that store was still open,
Of course. Well, sometimes people still have to get their necessaries.
Yeah. That gas station is gonna be there with the hot dogs and the
of course. I think that's yeah. I think that's the norm for a lot of places, is that corner gas station. Like the guy who owns that thing, he pretty much lives there. So he's
so everything is in that gas station. Texas and Florida.
There you go. You know that. That's what we live in. So, all right, my friend. One of the things.
Let's get busy.
Let's get busy. That's right.
Round one.
Morgan Freeman. Get busy living or get busy dying. That's the word from.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's where we are.
what I wanted to bring up with you, hold on, we're not doing this right. I got to put my low, bring my background.
Yeah.
Just a little bit so it doesn't overblare us. But there we go, folks. But I wanted to talk to you about community building and engagement, because I think we both see the value in it, right? It's something that's very vital in wanting to connect and actually find it. But I think where we differed was I was like, hey, just start reaching out to people and building out your community, right?
Yeah.
And I think you came with a different perspective on how to do it strategically or more selective in how you build out your community. Um, let's talk about a little bit about that and how you've kind of seen community building from your perspective of what you've been doing in the as you guys can see the hashtag down there. So if you don't, please follow it. Hashtag black I can't even talk. Black LinkedIn is thriving. Because I want to pass that along, because very much like you, I do believe in community building and getting a lot of things out there. So I come in contact with tons and tons of Black content creators, right? Live streamers. I mean, I've scoped a few hashtags like that, and I was like, would love to see that being shared. As you can see, I have quite a few of them already in my audience who create all the time. These people, these are who do live streams, who do this. So I want to see some of that being incorporated into building this up, because that's a big vital part of it. So tell me a little bit about how you want to see community building in your perspective.
I think it's tough, Gabe, because if you've been on LinkedIn a while, you know that when Black people show up authentically and talk about issues they're concerned about, there's a white troll in their comments somewhere. Someone put up a meme a couple days ago, making a joke about the Key and Peele had a skit where one of them was Obama, and he's walking through a press conference, and he's dapping the Black and brown people, but the white folks like, how you doing? I don't. But he'll give a hug and what's up, to the Black folks. So a techie redid that and made it JavaScript, of how JavaScript speaks to other languages it likes, like React. So the white languages, or the kind of vanilla languages, and it was, there was a Black techie that put it up. It was Black people commenting on it. And there's this one troll. And he's like, wow, JS is so racist. Ha 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 ha. And I when I see the comments, I like to look at, because you can do this with social media, how did this person get into this conversation? Who is he? So he wasn't following anybody. About 25,000 connections, 0 connections to him. So then I went into the person that reposted it, because he's a Black techie from old school Black Facts. Ken Grandison, Ken and Dell, they own blackfacts.com, which is the oldest Black website on the internet. And they do a show on Fridays called Black Facts. And so Ken reposted it from somebody else who's also Black. And so I went down a rabbit hole to see, how did this guy come in contact? And it wasn't Ken, it wasn't the original poster, it was a commenter. He was friends with one of the commenters, or connections to their friends. And so I think that when you talk about Black, I know it myself, it's a daily, even this conversation we're going to have, probably would have had it sooner if I didn't have a 4-month-old. But my initial rush to say, hey, Gabe, let's have this conversation, because it's an important one. As the month went on after December, and I thought about it in January, I was like, it's getting close to Black History Month. Do I really want to have this conversation in Black History Month? Do I want to have it after Black History Month? Because I know the pushback. And now sometimes you just don't want to deal with the pushback. So when you say, hey, I want to highlight more Black live streamers, and I want to show Blackness. And I think Robert's show probably, I don't think Robert's show has And I think even Carl and
Charlene.
Charlene show doesn't necessarily. I would consider them less black live streamers or black LinkedIn live streamers shows. I'm saying, and more all three of their shows appeal to people general, and so they're mainstream. But even showing up as a person of color on the screen can't get a reaction. And then I think that a lot of people before 2020 were on LinkedIn as we don't see color. I mean, I would go and say there was only a few of us talking about blackness, and it was occasionally like Milton Kelly has been talking about blackness for, I don't know, last 7 years. Designated Dr. Belinda, she might have been talking about blackness. I don't know how long she's been talking about blackness, but there's only a few LinkedIn accounts and profiles that have been consistently every single day. This is a black thing. This is the, I would even maybe say 60, maybe 90%. So when you show up authentically as your race or as your color or as your community, LinkedIn traditionally has not been that place that has been inviting. Whereas Facebook, would have been inviting. And that's what people would say, oh, this belongs on Facebook, doesn't belong here in professional space. But yet, when there's Irish Day, when there's Columbus Day, when it's Cinco de Mayo, and I've just learned recently that a lot of Latinx, a lot of Hispanic, a lot of Latinos, never even, they would laugh at Cinco de Mayo because it was a Gringo Day. It wasn't during it. They were like basically, like
the actual celebration of independence is in September, not in May.
So that's so messed up.
That's what we call 16 de septiembre. That was when actual liberation happened in Mexico. But yet, I don't know why.
Exactly. So, but unfortunately, because of the murder of George Floyd, a lot of people have come to realization that race is actually an issue. And I have to shout out to, I've said this for the last 2 years, Howard, right at the my tongue, the former CEO of Howard Schultz at Starbucks. He tried this in 2016. He said, I want to have race conversations I want our baristas to have race conversations while they're giving coffee out. And people were like, oh no, Howard, that's ridiculous. Oh, you're against Obama. It's like we should have. Then he had to come back and apologize 3 days later. Well, my mother's probably premature. There's a lot of nuance around race and everything. Howard was again a trailblazer, trying to have white people to sit down and have this conversation. It's awkward. It's uncomfortable. But I'm saying I just say that when you posted about, hey, go out and build a community, I really feel like there is a framework around that. Hey, build a community. Because I think it's definitely about the person and what they want that community to look like, right? But as they build it on this platform that's not 100% safe for people of color, the platform itself has a lot of work to do to implement the community safeguards. I had a late 70s, a retired doctor, put up a post, and then because she was posting authentically as herself, this guy started tracking her posts and started every time she posted something, just horrible messages. So she blocked him. You know what LinkedIn did? LinkedIn, in their genius, tells him that he's been blocked by her. And so now he's sending her messages on other platforms saying, why you blocked me on LinkedIn? F you. And so she reaches out to us because she's a member of Black LinkedIn and says, is there something I can do to get LinkedIn to understand how stupid this was? And I was like, well, let's try a few things. And we tried some things and they realized their mistake. But I'm not at all, I'm pretty sure that it's still their policy unless they tell me different. And maybe they'll respond to this video. But they let the person know that you blocked, that they've been blocked by you. Yeah. And that's not a safe thing. And then I think it was Ashanti Martin who put up a post on January 6th. And the post was just about, hey, we wouldn't have had January 6th unless we cut without white outrage. And wasn't a lot, but a few news outlets also made the same exact thing. And Ashanti writes for papers like New York Times, so she wasn't outside of her character or her profession to write about, honestly, what January 6th, what precipitated that, besides Trump, and what is at the crux of this outrage and reaction to, possibly. And so her post was taken down almost immediately. Then she put it back up. It was taken down again. Then her account was locked out. She was locked out of her account for 15 minutes. And then finally, she made a video of the post that they took down, and they left that video up. But I mean, that was just, last month. And this is somebody whose article is called "Black LinkedIn is Thriving." It's like, this is like the one person you don't want to maybe we should put Ashanti on a different list. Like, can we put her on a list that she's good? Like, she's the person that writes the fact that we have a problem with Black people. We don't want to piss that person off.
Right.
So I think when you think about building community and showing up authentically, it's something that, if you've been on the platform for a while, you can't just do that. I think that Nigerians or Kenyans or people from Ghana or Black UK folks, because they're slightly insulated in those communities, they can kind of build a community instantly. Like, they can start to populate out. But I think if you're a Black American or even a Hispanic American or Latinx or Latino, it's harder to do that because of your network is not friends of a friend. Could be somebody who strongly believes that, we shouldn't wear masks and that this is all a hoax. And so now you got this person you're talking about. A good friend of mine right now is in the hospital, and I may talk about her authentically. Actually, her folks have asked me not to talk about her authentically on this platform, and because we can't control the comments, we can't guarantee that there'll be grace and space for her to heal. And I'll have to go through the comments and try to block this person, delete that. All we're asking for is grace and space, and it's almost this is sort of the last frontier of the wild. We used to call the internet www. It was the wild web. That's what we used to call it back in the day.
Yeah.
And so this still has a lot of CompuServe people on it. It still has a lot of that mentality of CompuServe and Prodigy and AOL. I'll leave this comment or Yahoo groups. And I think that's why Clubhouse did so well, is because even though it was set up by tech bros, it was set up as a kind of a inclusive, exclusive space. And so because of that, you can kind of narrate your experience. So from my experience on Clubhouse has been excellent, because I'm only following people who actually care. They don't harass. They're patient. I found a business partner on Clubhouse, and he moderates in love. I mean, this kid is, I say kid, I'm 50 and he's in his 30s, but I've never seen somebody. I've been to tons of webinars and seminars and all kind of stuff, from Tony Roberts to Eric Thomas to whoever is the latest, greatest of the student of Deepak Chopra and Dr. Wayne Dyer. And probably Dr. Wayne Dyer is the closest to Carl, this kid that we partnered together on Clubhouse. And he's just so loving and so gracious. And it's hard to find those people. But for my Clubhouse experience, my hallways, they call it, it's a lot of love. There's some definitely controversial topics, but I've really gone through it. I did this ever since day one on social media. Always followed folks who are giving grace and space. Like I've always tried to, every follower, I very rarely follow somebody who's toxic.
Yeah, but
And
there's
so,
something about having those uncomfortable conversations. There's something that's really
yeah,
vital for a lot of them, because again, if you're talking about open and honest and clear channels of communication and understanding and getting clarity, you have to. I mean, it's just like in any personal relationship, you have to have those conversations so people know. Sometimes people are, not that everybody's this way, but there's a lot of uneducated people.
I
There's
think part of the problem too, though, is that people are. Sister Soldier said this. For those people who don't know, Sister Soldier is it's spelled sister and soldier, soul ja. So the word soul and JAH. Um, Sister Soldier said people are arrogant in their ignorance. So it's to what I've found is that, especially on the internet, is that there'll be a few that are uneducated or ignorant to this whatever the concept is, and they want to learn. Again, I think since the death of George Floyd, um, it's been a reckoning in Americans really realizing. I mean, we said it with George Bush, made fun of how different George Bush versus Obama was internationally, but I think there's very few people today who don't get it. America was arrogant in its ignorance about race, very arrogant. Like, oh, I don't see color. Really? It's like, or this doesn't happen to if you just pull your pants up. No, that's not. So I think, to your point about uncomfortable, but then how do you? And so that's why I was saying, with what you were saying about build a community. I was like, well, yes, build a community, but for folks who are expecting to find that community like you found on LinkedIn, I want to frame that, because I know you have a very diverse audience, and say, be careful, build a community, but be careful, and be ready to be the hall monitor of your own community. Like, you just, I mean, that the show with Liz and Ashanti, there's a comment, there's 3 comments in there from someone who talked about this particular rapper who's known for trigger warning, causing a miscarriage by kicking and punching his girlfriend in the stomach. And I mean, like, we had a great conversation, and here's this person with his comments like, I wish he was rapping again. I wish he was back. I'm like, so as a hall monitor, I'm like, just scrolling past, that's not the comment I'm going to show, on the show. And I'm not responding to that person, and I'm trying to make sure, and nobody else responded to it. So the whole community was like, so thank God, so nobody engaged with that person, because we knew where that was going to go.
Exactly. Right. And it's like I said, I so very much like what you're talking about as well. So when I built the community that I've built up, it was very much so that I wanted to have a very open forum in this way, because there's a lot of things I don't know. Even as being a hall monitor, there's a lot of things that I'm still being educated, learning. So I still have to, even being at the top, you still have to be very open-minded in what you're doing. So I never shut my door to anybody who comes in and has something to say. Now, if you're coming there with a specific reason, then yes, you do have to be the hall monitor. You have to be the father figure that has to shovel this person out of the fold. Because again, that's part of what we get to do here, is bring a collective of people, and not everybody's going to agree. And like I said, you have to keep your mind open to discussion. You have to, because there's a lot of things that come out of learning from disagreement. That's you do have to have the opposing side of sometimes any and every conversation. There's always going to be somebody that has a different perspective on it. And that's all I try to do, is keep that open-minded. So when I built the community that I did, it was very specific and very targeted, because it was built around what I am passionate about and what people are very passionate about who come to be a part of the community here. It's the live streaming. It's the ability to be creative, to be creative, the creative mind. Those are a lot of things that, like, very, they're very strategic in bringing in a lot of these people who come into the fold. So it's very like-minded.
Creating content that people want to, that you said, interesting. I mean, you said creative, and creating great content that people want to watch.
And that's all I try to do in what I want people to do. But that's what, very much to your point, it should be something that if you're building, you still want to be strategic in how you build it out. I mean, everything has to have some kind of, even the most loosely based community has to have some kind of structure.
Yep.
There's always going to be a community leader. There's always going to be somebody who fills those shoes. There's always going to be, or it might be a few. It might be done by council, or so it's not just a particular thing. That's why, like, in building the community and that I'm still having people join. Mm-hmm. That's part of it. It's like, look, I do a lot of things, but there are other people here that I very much rely on to help continue that. And I love that you brought that. I love that you brought that to the point of, there are going to be the people that don't, that are there specifically to disrupt. And not in the good way. People have, I'm a disruptor. I disrupt things. That sort of thing. Yeah. That moniker. I tell people, look, if you have it, if people give you that title of, or people see you as that influencer, right? People say, hey, oh, you're Gabe, you're an influencer. For a very long time, I fought it. I didn't like the title. I didn't feel, it gave me a icky feel. And I started to think about it. What if I use that, though, for a good, in reaching out to people and say, I kept looking at it from the perspective of being bad. And somebody told me, again, listening to discussion and listening to the other side of an argument, I was on the other side of, influencer bad, influencer. It was somebody else that actually told me, he said, you're looking at this wrong, Gabe. You're looking at this very wrong. You need to actually fill that role, but use it for something else, something greater.
And that's not all you are.
It's not all you are.
That's one in the multi-hyphenated world that you live in.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I love this one though, Robert. He did say CompuServe. So.
I'm glad you brought Robert up. Robert, I'm coming for you next. Not on this slide, but I'm coming for you to post, Robert.
Go Google that if you don't know what CompuServe is.
I love Robert's. Robert does the work like Marcello and like Daryl do, and Troy Hope. They all show up in their industry authentically and create content based on their authentic relationship to the industries. When I saw a post that someone put up about Joe Rogan and are we for or against freedom of speech, it kind of pissed me off that I was seeing it in my circle, because I was like, what I strongly believe in is, as a Black journalist and a person that supports Black newspapers and been in radio since 2003, I'm all about freedom of speech, and I'll die on that hill. That's a hill I'm willing to die on, so that we have a freedom. What I'm not going to die on is the freedom to lie to people and just give them complete misinformation, especially since my community and your community were disproportionately affected by misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just had an investigation here in that started on social media here in Philadelphia. There's a restaurant called Taste of Sicily rather. Apparently they were selling ivermectin illegally out of the restaurant, bro. This is crazy. This is crazy. And it's literally just one post on TikTok that explains this whole thing. But apparently someone outed the restaurant to a famous TikToker who does investigations. And so that person called the restaurant to order ivermectin, and they were going to sell it to them over the phone.
Ooh.
And so then they said, well, they figured out, well, how do we get the doctor? And so they got the doctor. And they got the doctor's number. They got the person at the restaurant. This is so how dumb things are. The person at the restaurant gave them the doctor's information. And the doctor actually called. They take the call with the doctor. Doctor's a Pennsylvania doctor, a surgeon. And she was giving the restaurant 100 prescriptions at a time. And then there was a specific pharmacy that would fill it. Dude, this is like some 2020 in a 3-minute TikTok video. I was like, I felt so bad because it's Pennsylvania, but these are people who we know for sure ivermectin does not work and has led to death of people. Now, for me as a Black person who's seen, and it just this year I've seen more in 2021. Unfortunately, I've seen more of my friends die than I did in 2020. I knew of other deaths. So when I look at how top down, bottom up, top down, $100 million podcast gets to go on a platform that reaches millions of people every day and spew out misinformation, not freedom of speech, but actual factual lies that triculate. And so I'm in Pennsylvania, but I'm not near that restaurant. But what happens is those people that live near that restaurant and believe that lie that Joe Rogan did a whole 10-minute, 15-minute video about ivermectin and how great it is. And he personally benefited from being able to sell ivermectin or push the doctors that sell it. Those people that take that and then go to Pennsylvania hospitals, they increase the pressure on the Philadelphia hospitals. Because Philadelphia hospitals were taking in people from outside counties. We, the Black community in Philadelphia and Hispanic community in Philadelphia, we died the most in 2020. One of the reasons we died the most was that we could not get to beds. We could not get served. So this is how misinformation starts to hit us. And we are, unfortunately, we have the most disproportionate healthcare in this country. And now bottom up, there are people in my network that go, well, it's just freedom of speech and he should be able to say whatever he wants to say. And no, I cannot go on the radio, television and just say whatever I want to say. But because it's digital and it's unregulated, we haven't been able to say, we've been able to get away with certain things. Now, FCC has laws and the FTC and stuff like that. But us as consumers, we should be able to say that's a lie. That's not freedom of speech. There's just facts and there's not facts. And I think that's where we're starting to get to, where people like you and me are having these conversations. And I just found out today that 4 more podcasts left Spotify. 4 big podcasts left Spotify. And so I'm glad to see the people, not the companies, not the actual personality, but the people are saying, you know what, enough is enough. Like everybody knows somebody who unfortunately succumbed to COVID, got treatment too late, and died. And we're dealing with mental health issues. We're dealing with stressors. We're dealing with supply chain issues, all because, folks, it's a pandemic. Facts are coming out. We're moving at the speed of light. So, if we were giving each other grace and space to get it wrong, to get it right, okay, good. But somebody who's going to go and just manipulate the situation and bold-faced lie to the public, that's not freedom of speech. And so I think as we talk about building community, we now have to, it wasn't this way like in 2010 with Blog Talk Radio and stuff like that. Like we had all these tools.
Yeah.
And when we self-regulated, and then, sure, there was Alex Jones, but he was over there. And in my community, it was Boyce Watkins, but he was over there. In 2016, these fringe voices have become dominant voices. And finally, we're starting to, as consumers of this content, say, wait a minute. It was fun, you're mouthing off and everything. Like, even like with Howard Stern. Howard Stern, said things outlandish stuff, did crazy things, but he did not say take asbestos, take a scoop of asbestos and eat that. Wendy Williams, yes, toxic personality, caused people a lot of stress and said horrible things about people or lies, but she did not say you could drink bleach to kill, to cleanse it. Like, and so, we're at this point now, though, as consumers, not the government, but we have to say there's truth and there's lies, there's facts, and there's fiction, and it's not opinions. This is. I'm not talking about whether you like the guy. I don't, and that's the other thing too. I think that we're to your point about influencers, we're in a dominant era of personality.
Yeah,
like your personality can bring you revenue, or it can take revenue from you.
Yep.
And so, we talk about freedoms. It's people are free to say, no, I'm done with you, or people are free to say, yeah, I'll support you. But at this point, people are not free. It shouldn't be free to say, I'm going to go ahead and pass on a pack of lies that can kill you.
Yeah, right. And I think that's where it's hard, because I feel like there's a lot of things that you've touched on that it would be nice to have that here, and I think that there would be it would be remiss to not say that at some point we do need to have some sort of regulatory entity that kind of sees what we're talking about here over digital media, because it's like anything else. You let something run rampant for too long, it will consume. And if you do not have authority or regulation involved at some point, those things will continue to happen. And that's where that's what it is. If you go on terrestrial radio, it's the FCC. You say something, you do something, you do something, you're going to get fined, you're going to get nicked, you're going to get whatever. Whereas you say something here, I mean, there's no regulation. You know what? The only thing, and it can be done, and I'm going to tell you why it can be done. Right? The music industry has done this already.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So if they can build softwares to pick up, for whatever reason, I'm streaming, Jay-Z as my theme music on YouTube, I get hit.
Yep.
They tell me right away, this is a copyright infringement or fine or warning that you can't use this video, or you can't monetize it, or whatever. So these are built into. Facebook does the same. They'll mute your audio. They'll do all these things. So the ability is there. It's just the tact of somebody putting it together and actually building that sort of entity around it and saying, hey, what you're saying is not, factual, or somebody where we report it. We mute the audio, we pull the video down, whatever it is, it needs to be done. There is something that can be done to kind of help this. And I love the fact that you mentioned that, because that's, as I talk about live streaming and how it's developing, there are going to be these things that are going to be necessary to be brought into the fold of what it is that we're doing here as creators. Because what if somebody just starts creating, videos of again, I'm just going to use this as an example. White supremacy. Right. Somebody starts talking about factual things, and saying that what Hitler said or whatever things, or genocides, or incorrect, and this is there's not that counter to say, well, wait a minute, let's first of all, let's review this and take this down until we know it's factual, and then if it is, okay, we've investigated, go about your business, right? But I think that's something that we need to do, because again, I said it, from 2022 until 2027, this is only 5 years away. They estimate that live streaming will be a $247 billion industry. So where there's money, there's going to be these other things that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So best practice is to start thinking about these things in that light as well, because again, it's only going to take one bad apple, one bad thing that's going to cause all of this to crash.
That's why I'm loving what's happening with the older white folks. I said it on Clubhouse this morning. Like the 70-year-olds, they're coming back. Like these little kids that are coming to this planet, these little 4 and 5 and 6-year-olds that are coming to the planet with these attitudes and with like walking at 6 months and stuff. We got the old folks who are still on this planet. We're like, you know what? Neil Young was like, I'm out. You can have Neil, or you can have Joe. Not and then Joan Morgan, and just tons of other old white performers who are like, yo, I can put myself on YouTube. I don't need to be on Spotify. Like I'm on iTunes. I mean, to their point, they have it right now. Some are now going to Tidal. So it's like, and the market, the free market, is regulating itself. I think now, after living through the pandemic, one thing I will be able to say until I die is that the market is not free. It costs. Mm-hmm. Whether or not people want to, capital, and that's another thing about capitalism, true capitalism, which is what perverted capitalism that we have somewhat today. All those things, the market forces. Well, the market are people that have lost people, and that costs. And mm-hmm. that market is standing up and saying, we don't want to take in this content. And maybe the platform will learn this lesson. But I still have my doubts about the actual platform. But I see, to your point about white supremacy on YouTube, it took YouTube 5 to 7 years, but finally, they got our kids locked up. They got our kids gated away. They have real kid firewall content. Like are you sure you want an 8-year-old to see this? Oh, yeah. And then as soon as one parent dings you, you're out.
That's it.
And it's like, so, but 2010, that wasn't that YouTube.
That wasn't YouTube.
To 2022, YouTube was not the 2012 YouTube. So it takes a while. I think that we're learning that we're going to have to, as consumers, with everything in life, unfortunately, we're going to have to get involved now. Like we've been hands off, or we've had it good. We'll talk about the old back in the old days. In 2000, we just consumed content and sat back. They just fed us content.
Right.
Content. You didn't have to check a mark. No, we just watched content.
We just did whatever.
Now it's like, just idiot. Ding.
Well, I think, but again, it's like, so that's the whole thing about when we talk about these sort of things, if you learn how to start doing this now as part of like what I educate people on, is start doing this as a live streamer, as a creator, as a instructional educator who teaches people how to do this, is to bring in that aspect of also, when you talk about strategy, how to regulate yourself, how to do things a little bit differently, because that's going to be advantageous for us as creators going forward. Because again, it's going to take,
because we all make mistakes, right? We all do say things that we don't want to say, that we didn't think that we thought at the time was a great thing to say. That
I'm going to be honest, I'm the perfect example, because I've done wild shit on live streams. I've done crazy stuff on these things, but I had to learn how to regulate myself in doing it, because I saw that there is a side to it that will cause a lot of damage, not just for me, but for other people, So, oh, hey, who doesn't love that?
Miss Zora, she was over there watching when Mom came home, so Mom has to get out of her clothes and get out of her jacket, and you can't do that with a,
You can't do that.
It's 4-month-old. She loves looking at the computer.
Man, that makes me. You know what? I got 4, 5. Well, I guess you got 5. So.
Jesus, you got 5? I don't understand you and Daryl. You and Daryl and a guy named Richard Olsen. Richard Olsen has 9. His youngest is 1. I can barely keep over this one. And there's 20 years since my last child. So this new child, the new child with an attitude and stuff, and with their fastness. I don't know.
I'm gonna tell you what. It was always the feeling that no matter what was wrong in the world,
Bless you.
No matter what was wrong in the world,
yes,
the way that they made me see things,
Oh
the way
my
that
God! Yes,
me
yes,
made everything better in this world. It made me
yes.
forget about everything
Mhm.
else that might have been wrong. But it's
And
simply by the touch of the hand, the look of the eye, all of it. That's why it was such a big thing for me. Um, I'm looking at him now. I'm looking at her now, and I'm getting choked up because it's like I
oh yeah,
remember that feeling.
yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna have those moments too. I feel it because we have so many pictures and we got so many videos. So you know, there and this child, well, she was born not breathing for 14 minutes. So the
yeah,
doctors don't believe that she should. They're so amazed. We had about 20 doctor's appointments in January. She just came home in December. She was 79 days in NICU, and so we could take her back to the cardiologist, take her back to the heart, the lung doctor. We just took it to the PT doctor. Like, oh, she's moving. She's not stiff. And so, like,
yeah,
yeah, because she's got two parents who constantly are working on her and everything. So we were happy to get her home, and like, we ain't gonna make sure she go back, right? But
right.
to your point, we're videotaping everything, and we're intentional about. There's a picture on my post today about the three of us, her mother, myself, and her, and how we look, how we actually all three of us look as babies. And so, you won't be able to your point, I won't be able to not think about when, Zora was 4 months, or when Zora was 7 months. So to your point, where she starts walking. Now she's starting to sleep, at 5 hours. So she was sleeping 3 hours.
Ooh,
Bro, it's like an
that,
orgasm. Like 5 hours sleep.
I remember the first time that my oldest slept through the night.
Yeah,
That was like magic. You
right.
want You're talking about just 5 hours. Wait till you get like 8, and you go, oh, wow,
What
what just
happened? Like, I got 8 hours. I don't do myself.
But this
Yeah,
is the reason why we do these things, because we are parents, we are fathers, we are mothers. We want to see. That's part of what I push for every day, because I know that there's going to be a time my candle will burn out. I won't be here anymore,
yeah,
and all I want to do when I leave is leave things in a better place. Leave my kids with better opportunities, the opportunity to have better lives. I think what we've kind of pushed for, and why we continue to push, and why people and then understand like why Black History Month is pretty important.
yeah. I'm glad you brought that up.
Because it's coming from a place of wanting just that.
Right.
Is just that. Is just to have a better future, better life, a better opportunity. That's all this is coming from, and I think that's why I was talking to Future about this, Future Kane, and um,
I love Future.
what she was. We were just talking about this privately, and I said, but you know what? You got to go back and you got to constantly remind people and educate them about the history,
Yeah.
because the history is going to teach us what for the future. If we forget, people, it's like anything. History is our greatest teacher. Things have happened over and over again because we do not learn sometimes from history.
Yeah.
We will continue to make the same mistakes if we do not continue to push the education of what this is and why it's so important. So, talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, you're going to have to approach that as
It's
well with your daughter when
it's
she'll be old.
well, it's interesting because I think that one of the things that I've been really trying, what I do with Your Black News and the nightly
Yes.
Black News on Clubhouse is I do what I call non-triggering Black news. So to me, Black news typically falls into a high, hey, kid got 16 scholarships to 12 of the top colleges, and oh, great. Or low, another Black person was killed by a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like there's no middle. It's just either low,
Or
effed
high.
up feeling, or high, and so I look for news in the middle. And I think that's where my specialty is at. So art, health, education, um, money, business, and solutions. And so in that space, there is the conversation around critical race theory that's been thrown around. And I've got a bunch of different Black authors. My family owns a bookstore. My cousin owns a bookstore. It's been around for 23 years. So I have an intentional chat with Black authors on Clubhouse, on LinkedIn and Clubhouse.
LinkedIn, yeah, I've seen them before.
But it's been kind of like hit or miss. I haven't really scheduled it until you. Actually, I never thought about creating a consistent author chat day. I just had it whenever I get an author I like to say, oh yeah, come on, let's bring it on LinkedIn. But because of your LinkedIn live streams, I've now figured out a schedule that I want to use for regular, consistent author chats on LinkedIn. But those authors, unfortunately, Texas has kicked out a bunch of my authors that I've had on LinkedIn. The schools have kicked the book out of libraries.
Oh yes,
these are Christian authors. They're not talking about some crazy, new Black Panther Party or BLM or anything. One guy's a cartoonist. he's a nationally syndicated cartoonist, Jerry. And but anyway, my point of saying that is to say, well, what you just said about history. Well, if history is being taken out of the school because it's making people feel uncomfortable, or like in Florida, the law is that we can't speak about racism because it makes white people feel uncomfortable, then that leaves us as parents or us as a community to have these conversations. And when it comes to business, I need people to understand that www was the actual domain names were created by a Black man named Emmett McHenry. And Emmett, I'm going to post today the story from Biz Journals from 2002, where it says Emmett had to sell Network Solutions for a song. He sold it for $6 million. And why did they say a song? Because the people he sold it to turned around and sold it to VeriSign for $3 billion.
Yeah.
So he could not get funding. He was maintaining the entire domain registry, all web addresses in the 90s, and could not get a loan. Back then we called them bridge loans. He couldn't get a private placement to turn into a IPO. We didn't really have VCs the way that we have VCs today.
These now, yeah.
So it was a lot of things you did in the 90s to build, to kind of bootstrap your business. So you can get any of that. He was right down the street from Bob Johnson at BET. He went to every black rich person. Nobody wanted to give him money. So he had to sell. And the people he sold to knew that Congress was going to allow a domain fee. Up until that point, there was no domain registration fee. And so Network Solutions was created by a Black man. And he unfortunately could not hold on to it because it was too expensive for him, maintaining everybody's domains and stuff. And he didn't have the inside information. So that type of history now isn't really taught in schools. And so if there's a book out called Black Software, and I don't know if he's in that book or not, but one of the things I'm working on with a video would be to create this video I call black.com. And it'll chronological go through the Black tech era for me as growing up in tech. I grew up in tech. I started in tech in '88. And so that the creators I know and some people have passed on and stuff like that. But those folks are Black history, Black tech history or Black business history. There was a post today, a sister, I consider her part of Black Future Month. Her husband was one of the first graphic and Black comic book companies. And unfortunately he passed on, but she put a post up about her visiting Reginald Lewis. Reginald Lewis is the guy who owned TLC Beatrice and was the first leverage buyout of $1 billion by a Black person. And so I was like, wow, this is Black history, but it's also Black future. Why is it Black future? Because she is the CEO of the Newark Symphony Hall. And she's done some innovative things with that. But also, she was the first person, her and her husband, to build a mesh network commercial location. So this location was a theater, restaurant, and they were using mesh network. I think it was like 2006, 2007 in Harlem. And so I was like, wow, Tanisha, you're both. You're Black history. You're talking about history and your Black future because you're helping the next generation. And there's a bunch of people today on LinkedIn. It's going to be.
Well, that sparks something interesting in me that makes me think like,
Yeah.
so how do you actually find those people and bring them to the forefront? Because, well, of course, part of that,
It's,
but we
I,
can't all get into Martin Pratt.
but we should be able to. So
We
that's
should
why
be
I'm gonna
able
launch
to.
something. Ask Martin online. That's gonna be
So
what I
that's a
launch.
big one because there's a lot of there's a lot of foundational things that can be set out
Yeah.
simply by doing that, because there are those people that can bring together and transition future to past. When you said that, I was like, holy crap, I love those sort of individuals that can do that, because they're
And we
not
have a
only.
lot. To your point, there's a lot. The challenge is like I work with the afrocrowd.org, which is the
Mhm.
Black Wikipedia editors. And
Yeah,
I've been working with them, blessed to work with them for almost 2 years now, on projects to make sure that there's enough Black editors. So when I came on board, when I came to them in 2020, I think 2019 at end of 19,
yeah,
there were 98% of all editing on Wikipedia was white males. So that Wikipedia, the foundation,
yeah.
uh, said, "Hey, we want to create more intentional, diverse editors, so that there's not just a white male view on Wikipedia, and those
Hmm.
Black or Hispanic or women topics don't get taken down."
Yeah.
And so this era, you and I will come back at 2020. I'm sorry, 2032, and we'll have this conversation again and say, "Wow, man, 10 years, bro. We're 10 years older, and my daughter's now, 10 years old. Yours is off to college, so you might be a grandfather in some cases."
Hmm.
And we'll say, "Wow, in the last 10 years, I'm tired, Gabe." And you're like, "Yeah, I'm tired too." We really raised a lot of stuff, and I think that it's not because necessarily you and I or people like us want to do this work. But if I do talk about Cheryl Dorsey, who's coming together with Morgan from Blavity today to do a book signing on LinkedIn, if I do talk about Tanisha, and I do talk about trying to think of some other folks, Moses West, when a white person goes over to Wikipedia to find them, their story's not there.
Mm.
So the thing about it is, it's not it's not, hey, we just got to talk about it and let people know. Then we got to create a place for that to stay, because the school libraries are being destroyed.
Yeah,
And
they're very selective. They're very things.
stuff like you just told me about Cinco de Mayo is the same thing that I didn't know about with the Memorial Day versus Memorial Day, and I can't think of the other day we celebrate our military. I didn't realize Memorial Day is a sacred, it's a solemn day.
Veterans Day.
Yeah, it's Veterans Day versus Memorial Day. So that information, do I go to snoops.com and verify the information? Like, where do I
Yeah.
go to understand what someone just told me? We're slowly, and that's why I said 10 years. I was invited to be a part of a misinformation project to come up with different innovative ways to deal with misinformation on different platforms. That's being funded by government, and some colleges that are out of Texas, University of Austin. I'm working with them on creating misinformation portals to be able to help Black folks, not just like on print or video or different places where they can turn to trusted and where. This is like a 5 to 7 year project. It's not going to be something that happens overnight, right?
Overnight. But
So
you know what? There's so many things that can spur from that, though.
yes, that's what I'm saying. 2032, man. I can't wait to talk about this because hopefully, we won't our kids or our children, for them it'll be easy. Oh, is that verified? Is that trusted? Like I said to my wife, I say, can you? She said, oh, sounds weird. I said, can you type in word scam with that? Just Google that and type the word scam, or Google that and type in word ripoff, and see what comes back. Then I'll say go to Google reviews and see what people are saying underneath the product, and Google, not Yelp, not Amazon reviews, but Google reviews. Google reviews is where I feel like we've got a lot of folks who actually use whatever it is and go, no, that's terrible. So we have these different methodologies to figure stuff out, but it hasn't necessarily gone outside of my circle. Now that I'm talking to you, it'll permeate your circle. but it's still siloed. The kid that's not on LinkedIn, who's 16 years old, when he comes on LinkedIn 19, he might find this video.
He might.
But to your point, I want to do a video with you as soon as Cinco de Mayo comes up and like, why Cinco de Mayo is not Cinco de Mayo.
Why Cinco? Exactly. You know who benefits more than anything on Cinco de Mayo? The alcohol.
Yes, of course.
All those people, they actually build advertisements to put them out there.
Yes.
They share. Oh, enjoy.
But I'm glad we talk about this, because this was our next topic. The next time we meet is going to be about monetization. I love what you and Russ. I think you and Russ are working on something.
Mm-hmm.
But the concept of sponsorship, I can guarantee we could probably find a Hispanic, a real genuine Hispanic beverage company that would sponsor our conversation about why Cinco de Mayo is not Cinco de Mayo.
It's why it's not Cinco de Mayo. Exactly.
And so that's a way to make sure your content stays up and you get a larger audience, because you get this big sponsor who's giving you a ton of money. We might make up t-shirts and give them away. Our faces going to talk about F Cinco de Mayo, the real Cinco de Mayo.com, and they'll be for it. Sponsored by whoever,
whoever wants to come in here and well, that's the wonderful thing about some of the things here that I get to actually share on the daily, or whenever I do go on live, right? Is that there a lot of the times, that's why I love video, because video is very much written in permanent marker.
And easy to find. It's written in permanent marker, but it's also easy to find.
Exactly. And so even though like we're here talking now, in 10 months or in a year or in 6 years, just like very much our very first conversation that people can see back behind us, those things are there to exist. And there's a lot of things. Again, we're creating our own education. We're creating our own levels of being able to share our wealth of knowledge. And so that is a big thing for me as well, where because I've thought about it as well, like, how do I start bringing my culture into what I do as a creator? That's a big part of me. I mean, I did my 10 post 1 day challenge. I shared my background. I shared my background of my family's been building tamales and doing, again, being culturally rich in the Latino, Hispanic, Latinx communities for a very, very long time. I've gotten to see and live in that community for since I was born, since I came into it, since seeing it. And you see what that part of it is. That's a rich part of our culture. And what I get to share, and I'm teaching my kids, look at this. This is exactly what it is. This came from your grandparents. They were, it was the generations of what's being taught, besides it becoming just a thing for Christmas. People love to buy Christmas tamales. They love, for some reason, it's a delicacy, or they love celebrating that. And hopefully at one point it'll be where it overtakes the turkey. People want to, that would be my reality. That'd be my fun to see that happen, because I've gotten to see that ever since I was.
Turkey is so dry, bro. Turkey is so 1990.
It is. It really is. It's like anything. You can put anything and everything in there. It tastes wonderful. Right. You put pork, beef, chicken. If you're vegetarian, you don't want to use, whatever. It's such a viable, flaccid way to make something edibly wonderful.
And the spices are so inexpensive. That's the thing that always amazed me about getting Spanish spices. I'm like, it's so cheap.
There's a lot of things that I would love to talk about, like why fajitas are so popular now. But did you know that was the part of the cow that a lot of the rich white owners and people that would have these ranch hands come in, they would give them that because it was a throwaway part of the meat.
Wow, no, I didn't know that.
So
I did know. Well, I did know that I love street tacos, probably because I like feeling like I'm closest to the culture. Like I don't like the American, the traditional Taco Bell type of taco. I like the street taco because I
Oh,
felt
there's a
like,
story behind that too. Listen to this. So there's actually a business still in California where all this originated, still owned by the original family, but it was a white business owner who owned a hamburger and hot dog stand not too far from where this Mexican restaurant was. And when they would close up shop at the day, they would go over there to go eat. And he would go over there every day after work, and he got to know the owners. And in building, I guess, a relationship or trust, he started asking, and they gave him, how they did things, what they did things with, and he took the concept, and now where you guys drive into Taco Bell, that was actually somebody else's original stories, original recipes, family that built all that up. That family, you can actually Google it just Google I forget the guy's name.
wow.
But yeah,
we should do did you know? We should do did you know videos.
Yeah, I want to. That's why I said this is part of
it.
Because like I said, the fajita was the skirt steak was the cheapest part of the meat that we would throw away, and they would give it to their workers. And you know what?
It's also kind of tough, depends who makes it. You make it right. Yeah.
But that was part of it. Is that what they did something with it? That is part of So yeah, Marcello saw this. It was on CBS.
I was going to say, something like, yeah, it was stolen. That was stolen too. Or yeah, that you won't believe where that came from. Also, that type of because what is it called? How did they make it? What's sold? That sold for like 20 or 30 million. That franchise. That did it out. So we could do the same thing, just the Spanish and Black version.
Exactly.
Literally, we have come with a new LinkedIn Live right now.
There's tons of them. I mean, even now, listen to this, right? So to appropriate their cultures and eliminate what it is. Listen to this. That's why people call them wraps. They're burritos. They're I mean, I'm like, what is a wrap? Like they take the same concept of like in Greek culture and gyros and what they do, and they turn it into other things, and they give it other, fancy names that sound, I don't know,
less ethnic. More mayonnaise.
But there's so many things, because that's why I said I love culture, I love history.
Let me give you one. YouTube. There was a company called Urban Entertainment. Came out 2 years before YouTube. That's where the movie Undercover Brother came from. This was in '99. It was a video portal. You could upload a video. It would take you about 7 hours because it was dial-up modem back then. But Undercover Brother, the Budweiser commercial, what's up? It all came from UrbanEntertainment.com. Those guys made a ton of money, and they said they're done. And when they were saying they were going to shut down, I went to did the see where the web hosting was at, and I called the company. Found out I think it was $15,000 a month to host those videos they were hosting with the company. And I was pitching people in New York to try to come up with another version of Urban Entertainment. While I was doing that, California, YouTube popped up, and it looked the way that YouTube, even now, the way the white and the square and all that was exactly what Urban Entertainment was. And so we've got thousands of these stories that some are painful, some are hit the hop stop, the ability to find out when a bus or train was coming to you. A black guy in Brooklyn designed that whole thing, and hopstop.com, he eventually sold it to Apple for $3 billion. But that's one of the success stories. But Hopstop, the ability to track that a bus or train was coming, no city had that. There's this kid in Brooklyn who created that. And we got to definitely do an episode maybe once a quarter that just says like, volume 1, yep, that was taken too, or yep, that came from us too. That came from us too.
There's tons of them, man. So I'm actually looking at the website. So the name of the small little restaurant in California is called Milita Cafe, and that was established in 1937. The owner of Taco.
Yeah, talk about almost 100 years. Yo, we got to start planning now a special anniversary party.
Exactly. So it was 1937. It was established.
Wow.
And Glenn Bell was the guy. That's why it's Taco Bell. So he saw that what that was, and I believe, I don't know. Yeah, Martin is on YouTube. I think he's got a YouTube.
Oh, yeah, I'm on YouTube under Your Black News. Several different channels.
Yeah, he's got quite a few, and so like she's probably studying, like trying to find your content. But that's part of it. That is like in the cultures that we see every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's, even though we live in a country where there's so many diverse people, and this culture is a piece of every other culture that's come here. It's not just part of it. It is the Black culture. It is the Latino culture. It is the Asian culture. It is all these different people that came together to help build all this up. That's why I said the history of what we have here, what's shared here. It's not even scratching the surface of why I said that. That's why it's so important to see. I love it when I see like Black entrepreneur groups and see people that doing all of these things, because again, folks, it's just a reality of what we are as a society of people. But money is going to invoke how people are going to be able to do in helping either build or educate or create all these wonderful things. Just like the example you talked about, the guy who had to sell the web domain service. I mean, had he been able to find funding, God knows where he is or how much or what. We might be talking about Elon Musk. We might be talking about somebody as the richest person in the world.
Or GoDaddy wouldn't have been around.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I didn't put it in the thing I should have. Bad form. Not putting show notes.
Well, we didn't talk about and that's the thing. I think the hesitation on my part to put things on LinkedIn about what I do off of LinkedIn has been. I think Gary Vaynerchuk said this last year that you're gonna show up on every platform. You gotta be intentional. He did a video where he does the Thursday marketing thing. That's like last year. His Thursday marketing thing was about how or it wasn't a Thursday marketing thing. It was one of just a post that he was talking about. He showed his 2009 video where he was cursing and people were like, oh my God, Gary Vee cursed. And that's how he grew up. And what he was saying then about being intentional on Twitter and being intentional on social media. Now he's saying you gotta be intentional on all these different platforms. I looked at what was the company? Now This. I like how they start. If you Google Now This and their I don't know which article you would look at, but they started on each individual platform and they got to 1 billion views in a year. They were intentional about doing only video that was for the right size for Facebook, or only video for, back then it was Periscope, for Twitter, only video for YouTube. And they did voiceover. Some of it was automated. Some of it they didn't even use a voice. They just used words in the video. They were the news. It was Now This News. Now they have all these different versions of Now This, and then now they have a website, but they didn't have a website. They just showed up on each platform, but intentionally siloing their content to that specific platform. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't advertise YouTube stuff because I'm not there yet where I feel like the YouTube people need to cross over to LinkedIn, or LinkedIn people need to cross over to YouTube. I try to create content specific for each platform. Maybe one day I'll be there where it's like, oh, check out our YouTube channel. I get it. I understand why people do it. It's great. I think you should definitely use these platforms and stuff like that. I'm just not that sure for my content. I love. My wife is a cook, a Louisiana chef, and when she makes a jambalaya or she makes gumbo, it's very specific. to her. She doesn't use this thing called Obey. She uses Zatarans, and so that's the way she judges whether that gumbo or that jambalaya somebody makes is they're putting a whole bunch of Obey. It's funny, the tastes are different. Obey is very, very, almost chokes you. Zatarans is spicy and almost like it sends it smoother. So it's interesting how the flavoring is different. For me, I just think that if I meet you here on LinkedIn and you come over to Clubhouse, that's great. But I think there's specific issues that we are dealing with on LinkedIn that are to LinkedIn. And there's specific issues on Clubhouse that are even though so the content is really platform centric. And I haven't built out a lot of content for YouTube. I just use it as a place to store video because StreamYard lets you do it. So I'm like, hey, I'll not let it sit over on YouTube. But I have a video that I interviews Stephanie Mills right after Michael Jackson died. So if you Google Stephanie Mills and Michael Jackson, you'll see one of the videos from I think I Love Black Women or Why I Love Black Women, and it's Stephanie explaining backstage why she loved Michael Jackson and how they slept in the same bed. They didn't have sex or anything, they just slept in the same bed. So like that video, I think it's got 45,000 views over the past 16 years. So I haven't promoted that once, but people just found it. And it's like, and there's, so even Gabe, let me tell you something. You got to do this. I did not know how successful this is, but I took a video of coffee being poured into a cup at this cafe in Denver, Colorado. I did it because they were such artisans, and I felt really, I was in the art district of Denver, and I didn't feel embraced anywhere. But this cafe, as white as it was, they were super inclusive. So it was very, pristine, cut glass everywhere. It was almost like you're in a a light place, like a place that sells lamps and lights. It was a cafe. So usually these cafes are kind of deep and dark. This was very beautiful. But they were not uppity at all. They were real down to earth. But the place was so gorgeous. So I was like, what? So I did a video of them pouring coffee, and I gave them a 5-star review. That thing has been viewed 250,000 times on Google reviews. And like, to me, what you just said about that restaurant, we need to do a Google review for that restaurant. And just like us talking about how, great that these people came up with this and posted on Google review. In 10 years, it'll be like 500,000 people have seen this and went to the restaurant because they great video you and I are talking about, But my point is just like, that's content specific for Google review. It's not, I never posted that review on YouTube or Instagram, TikTok, It's like,
well, it's why I said I'm doing the same approach with what I do in a lot of my creations. I relaunched my Twitter. I'm just doing specific things.
What's your Twitter? I gotta follow you.
At Stream Tornado.
Oh, cool! I love that name.
So that's the moniker that I've been dubbed, and that's the one that I use. So, but on there, I try to be a little bit more my fun side, my funny side. Where I post those things, and then I do my Instagram where I open more about my vulnerable side of what I get to share.
Gotcha.
That's a different sort of content, and that's how I'm going to approach each one of these platforms. Is you're going to get a different piece of me on each one of them. Like if you go to my Instagram, you wouldn't know that I have funny jokes and anything else. It's more about like the things that I need to feel good about.
Gabe. I see the Gabe on Instagram. He's serious Gabe.
And then I put dumb stuff that comes to my mind sometimes on Twitter, and that's where I love to share that content at. Then you get me
over to TikTok. I can't see I gotta see the dancing game.
I gotta do that at some point. Actually, I've done that a few where I've like I took Jamal Marshall's video.
Not Moringa.
And I duetted with him. It was fun. I love just being that. I think that's what the creative spark of me wants to continue to do with each one of these platforms. Is you're going to get a piece of me. Instead of me one place, you're going to get me spread all over. So if you want to go see like where my heart pours out at, go to Instagram. That's where you're going to find like the my side of it. And then you go to Twitter, you go find the little goofy
anecdotes today.
And then here I come here to do mostly the educational part of like bringing out what live streaming is, and
the foundational gate,
foundation of what I am, and then I'm figuring out what I need to do with TikTok, and then my YouTube channel is going to be mostly about all the human interest interviews that I've done, and
wow, I
the
love
people,
that game. I love that.
the
I
people
think
that
you should do two. I think you have enough content to do two different things. You could do the human interest, like Humans of New York type of thing,
yeah,
and you could do the how-tos.
the how-tos. Well, I think
Because the
that's going to be
how-tos are evergreen, and in 5 years, 7 years, you know what? I just thought of something. We need to make videos for our kids, and when they say, "Dad," go to my YouTube channel.
go to my YouTube.
Yeah, they'll help us make some money because then we go to our YouTube channel. This is how you fold.
Here's the link, son.
Okay.
Dad, how do I change a tire?
Son, he's gonna learn how to fold damn sheet.
How do I change a tire? Well, daughter, let me show you. Here's the link.
Right. Did you check out my YouTube channel on how to change a tire for daughter?
It's got 500,000 reviews. People went and watched how to change a tire, and it was just general.
And now with YouTube, they make it so you can't leave a negative review. You can't leave a negative comment. So thumbs up all the time.
Thumbs up, and there you go, folks. So that's how you get it done. So, man, thank you, Mark, so much, man. I know
bro. This has been overdue.
And we'll definitely reach out again because now that you got me thinking, the wheels
are turning. Yeah.
Because I've been thinking about more content of like how to do certain specific content things that apart from that, and what you mentioned is one of them. Like I love the whole back of looking at saying, that came from, hey, that was us, or that this came from out of somewhere else.
This is us. That was us. Everything was us.
And bringing that up into in everything what it is, and like I said, the content.
Bro, Fox, we gotta do a show about this cleaning lady. Did you see this new show on Fox called The Cleaning Lady?
No.
Oh God, they took it from telenovela, bro.
Well, of course,
I'm just like, first I started making fun of it, then I googled it one day. And I was like, I saw the original, which is from Mexico, and I was like, oh, come on, Fox, like seriously? And so like Americans think that it's so that I was making a joke about what's the next video, the delivery guy, because it's like, of course, the cleaning lady is going to be corrupted by the cartel, and of course I feel like we have this trope of everything Mexican or everything south of the border has to do with the cartel. I'm not saying the cartel doesn't exist. I'm not saying it's not a huge part of people's life. But I am saying, come on, there's got to be. You can't tell me every Hispanic, every story has to have a cartel piece. Do not do like everything. It's like that. That's what we know. If we watch American TV, we just think the cartels. Every single thing that a Mexican comes.
Well, that's the thing. Look, that's the thing about novellas that people don't understand. Where like some shows here in America, we'll take a story and characters and we'll build it out for 5-6 seasons. Novellas are what they are. There's a beginning point and there's an end point.
Right.
They don't recreate shows and carry them on for season after season after season. It is done with its season. It's complete, and they move on to the next story.
It's a novella.
It's a novella. That's what it is. So there's an end point, and
right.
That's why I think they like it so much, is because they know that once it's over, they're not left with a cliffhanger, having to wait 7 months to go watch it again. It's like every episode's the cliffhanger,
right?
Because you know that there's going to be an end point to the story in the short amount of time that you have, and that's what I love about it. And I think that's a concept that hasn't been touched on here yet, but I think it will at some point, because we run out of here in the States. We run out of creativity, so we just go
steal something. Steal something. Yeah, they did it with I was so pissed. Some of the shows I love, I didn't realize they were English shows. That was the same show. Some of the shows that and it's been some reverse where they take it from us, but very few. All the Simon Cowell stuff, all his stuff has been originally was something else.
It was something else. It came from. It's just what I said. The whole original idea.
There's no creativity here, almost. So sad.
Well, they loved, again, me trying to be a scriptwriter for a very long time. You see where people don't know how to take in different different ideas and build upon them. They rather just go back to
what's easy and what's formulatic. What's format.
Exactly. If something's not working right now, let's go get
the Loch Ness Monster again. The thing. Godzilla versus so and so, the 14th version. Like, dude, come on. How many times does Godzilla fight Martha? Like, come on. Every 10 years, a new generation. They don't even know. It's like,
come on, man. There's some things that just need to be left alone.
Yeah, let King Kong die. Look, I don't need 14 King Kongs.
Yeah, I don't need to see a live television version of The Wiz. Okay, there was that's
now that's something that's interesting. Not because of The Wiz, but just to your point, I do think, and this is so we need to have the show we do that talks about Did You Know and where this came from. This was Us Too show. And then a show about culture, what you're just talking about, because I don't have a lot of people. There's another friend of mine, he'll probably come on if we have him on, he's a writer, a newspaper writer, and we can look. I call it TV shows I love, but to your point, maybe it's content we love, because I think that in creating content, the creation of the content, how we live the content and breathe the content, but then how does the next generation? Because I was dating somebody years ago when Michael Jackson died. She saw the Isley Brothers on stage. She was like, "Who are they?" I turned to my mother. Was like, "Exact." I was like, "What?" And so then I started. I was dating her. But I started asking her. Have you ever listened to Stevie Wonder? A little girl, not too a little girl. She's 14 or 15. She said, "No." I said, "You don't know the songs of Key of Life?" And the mother's like, her mother was like, "What is that?" They were supposed to be like Hungry Kids, and I was like, "You've never heard the songs of Key of Life? Isn't she lovely?" And so to your point, I grew up seeing The Wiz on off Broadway. So my parents took me there, but a lot of people never saw The Wiz. So I think there's certain things like I would love to see Technicolor Jesus. I would love to see some of the old plays from the 70s. See how these kids today, the Generation Z kids, react to. Now it may not translate right because it probably would stand up, but I think some of that stuff, if it hasn't been done on that medium, maybe it should be. Just so the new generation.
Maybe I should put it like this, or maybe this might be another idea. But I don't need to see a real life version of the Boondocks, right?
That actually could be pretty funny. like Black Dynamite. We don't need to see Black Dynamite act out.
But that would
Dewey. Yeah.
Dewey. That's the whole creative.
And can it be done in 3 minutes for TikTok or Instagram?
Exactly. They can reach the spans of the generations now, because again, that's a whole other story. We could talk another 5 hours about what that is.
Right.
But man, I think
can we find some 13-year-olds or 14-year-olds or 17-year-olds or 19, to join? I think that's where you and I are open to, what a lot of people are not. I want to get the next generation in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I want to intentionally have these generational conversations, and maybe some 70-year-olds and 80-year-olds.
Well, my son's starting to recognize LinkedIn. Because I push it all the time.
Yes.
Right. So he goes they're actually having television advertisements where they're talking about LinkedIn.
Yeah, I know. He's like, "Wait, is that thing you're on?" Like, yes.
Yeah, and he goes, "No, he'll know." He goes, "Hey, Dad, look, it's LinkedIn." And I go, "Oh, thanks, son. You're right. That is LinkedIn." But he knows what it is, and my kids will actually know more about it than most, because this is a platform that I push, so they're more familiar with it. I've had conversations with older people who are like, "Isn't that place where you go, like, put your job up there, like Indeed?" I'm like, no. I had a whole conversation over at Christmas of why being on LinkedIn is pretty important.
They've done a piss poor job of explaining it, even in that commercial. They haven't done a really good job in explaining what the platform is.
But I think the thing, you got to bring in creative minds to bring that across. See, that's the problem, is that if you're relying on what you think actually works and not listening to the sound of what your creators and everybody else is telling you, you're destined to fail. You will be MySpace in 10 years. You'll be dissolved. People won't know what you are. You know, you fall by the wayside.
Or Ning.
Or your CompuServe or your any of these other platforms that don't take into account what your creators are and why they're important, because they are the people that are using this tool that you've built, and they want it to see it become something even greater, because it's a benefit on both sides. The way I see it, if you just listen to what we're asking, even though this is a business professional platform, the way people see it now, you're trying to transition to a social media feel of it. I mean, you want to know the reality of it, why LinkedIn isn't what it is? Go try to. I've been trying to apply for Amazon, and other people have told me the story to get on Amazon Live so I can start streaming and doing social selling there. And they're like, well, how many followers do you have on Twitter? Oh, not that many. How many on Instagram? Oh, I got this. How many on somebody will mention I got like 30,000 followers on LinkedIn, and they're like, what's that? Isn't that the business place you go get a job? It's not seen as a social media platform. It's still a joke. When they look at you, they don't want to know what you got there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not that your packaging is the new thing, of course.
Yeah,
Yes, Charlene, they were trying to be way,
Yeah, so I think there is such a thing as not being really direct and as too esoteric, and that's been LinkedIn's thing from day one.
I'm trying to get hired on there because I want to change what I want to see around here.
Right. Well, I think you should just do a campaign. Hire Gabe
on LinkedIn.
I'll support you and make sure it gets like just do a campaign or a post like, hey LinkedIn, imagine a direct come up with an idea you have, a commercial for one of the pain points, which is analytics for the video. Or I don't know.
Simple things. Believe me, the laundry list is there for a lot of the things that people are.
I think even how you create your community, how you're crafting your community of LinkedIn live streamers. I mean, that's genius. The daily guide is genius. It's
like anything. That's why I said you control. See, that's the thing. If I leave it to others, just like Glenn Bell, if I leave others to do it, somebody's going to be able to take that idea and run away with it. Not going to happen. There's too much in me to say, you know what? I see the need. I feel the need. I find the hole. I fix it. I build the process and the solution around it, and then I make it to where other people will go like, "Holy crap! How did you do that?"
Take it. Right.
You can't.
And then you collaborate with enough people too. That's the other thing too. That's different. I think a lot of times people don't think about collaboration between creators. And if you can collaborate with another creator or collaborate with a group of creators, then you're going to stay. Versus you're singularly trying to do this thing.
We're building a remote producer. We're building a remote producer academy. We're bringing on other creators to involve in our structure of coursework and teaching education, so that it's not just unilaterally from one individual going, this is how everything's done.
Yep.
It's a multitude of creators who have different ideas, innovations, processes of how they do things, and they teach other people how to come and do this.
Yeah.
So that's how it's supposed to be. That's how you get a different view of everything else. And I can go back and watch some of these creators sharing these videos and go, holy crap, I learned from them. I've learned from other creators.
Yeah.
That's the magic part of this, is that continues to happen. That's why I love what you're doing now. So I'm continuing to tell you to push the consistency, what you're doing with your Black authors and bringing them on and sharing their stories, because it's vital. to get their voice out there, get what they've written and what they've shared out there.
I want to
Because,
run one thing. Thank you. And I want to run one thing past you. My my dilemma has been, so I do the nightly news show at 9:30 on Clubhouse, and I was thinking, I was thinking of what do I want to end up on LinkedIn, because on the show we're doing 6 headlines about specific, every night has a specific topic. Tonight is creativity, so create Black creative news. But when I think about bringing that over to LinkedIn, and it's audio, so but we have replays, so I can make it to a video. But I'm thinking about either I do a rundown on Friday, like one day, here's the top headlines of Black news, or that under these topics. So it's not all Black news, it's the topics we cover. Or, which is a harder thing to do it every day, push that, because I had the replays from the night before. I can make those into videos and stuff, post it. But I feel like I want to do something. Earlier we talked about intentionality and being very intentional. I like to call it intentional intelligence, like emotional intelligence, but intention intelligence. And so my question is, do you think it should be the top headlines for the week and do that on a Monday or Friday, or should it not even be the news and just do something completely different for LinkedIn?
I think it should be, because I think there are a lot of touch topics that you can hit on, that will actually stream. They can actually be touched on multiple times in different perspectives.
Maybe like the Black business news, just do
exactly.
That. Yeah.
So then, because then you can also talk about not just how to go about doing that, but then you're talking about Black entrepreneurs, Black business development, help people how to learn how to find funding, how to help people how to build for business planning, forecasting, learning what. I mean, there's so many things in there that can be touched upon that will, again, add so much. I hate this word, but I've been using it over. But value,
right?
There is something in it, and I love what you say with intentions. I always say actionable intentions is what I.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Because it means you're doing something, putting it into actual movement and motion, and getting something there with an intention behind it.
Not just the thought or the desire too. Right.
It is done with actionable intention. Yes. It is something that you do that will get accomplished because now you're moving on it. An intention is an intention, but until you actually put it into motion, it is what that is. It's like when I talk about dreams. A dream is just an idea sitting there until you put action and motion into it, and that's all that is. So I think coming from that perspective, you would be able to help a lot, because I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of entrepreneurs who don't know how to get that first step process started, and especially the difficulty behind being a Black entrepreneur and being successful at it.
Right.
That's what they want to learn from, is how these individuals who've actually done this and bringing it to the forefront of saying, okay, look, these are the avenues. You're going to have to work harder, folks. Something, there's always something behind it. There's an inspirational part behind their stories of why they've accomplished what they've done, how they masterfully have gotten to the position of being a successful Black entrepreneur.
Right.
That is a big part of it. Why I love loving these topics and what you can actually bring about to somebody, because they're everywhere. They're just not spotlighted and they're not highlighted yet.
Right.
They're everywhere. We can find them all over. It's just putting it together and bringing it out there. And I love. I love the idea and all together, because, like I said, it's what's going to spur growth and development. Money, finance. You might think that's people look at sometimes as the dark side, but it's the reality of it. That's what controls.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you find the people that have masterfully learned how to do it and continue to do it, and then find successful in it, man, that's where the magic lies.
And I like your point about funding. I think that's a good topic in general. Once a week, to do
they've had to go find funding, whether it was through, I had to build my credit. Okay, cool. That's how one started. Or, hey, this is how I had to go to the Small Business Loan Association.
Yep.
The Hispanic small business. See, those are all things that people don't even think about, don't even touch upon. I know about this because, again, I've grown up in an entrepreneurial household for a very long time. I got to see how a lot of these things had to come together. So why not educate the others who have the desire, who are taking the time and the intention to want to go do it, to bring that forward and give them and what that looks like. But I think it's cool that you still, I mean, the news is still, from that perspective, is still important because, again, you let the news just go to whoever, it's not going to come across. You're hitting the middle ground.
Right.
You're hitting the middle ground of it. That, you know what, he didn't have 16 scholarships. He didn't have all. Those are wonderful stories. I love seeing those. But there's also this everyday story, or the everyday news of, you know, what this individual has done. You know,
or this college has done to let people come to the college for free. That
exactly.
We don't talk about. We talk about the individual who triumphed. We don't talk about people who, you know, I mean, I was a C student. I was a BC student. I would gladly have taken a scholarship somewhere, you know, like a handout somewhere. You know, hey, hand out something to this hand, you know.
That's right. I'm like, I ain't gonna turn that.
I wasn't pushing to get high SATs or to, you know, I was just barely like school. But there's places for. I mean, to your point of the Target family that owns Target is really pushing education in Detroit. And you don't really see that on LinkedIn. You don't see the story behind the Target Foundation and what they're trying to push in Detroit. I think when Jack Dorsey did something on, you know, because he owns Square, he owns Twitter.
Yeah,
you saw stuff about Jack Dorsey pushing money into Detroit, but you didn't see, you know, Target, who shows up every day in our life. And good point.
That's still vital to be brought. But I think seeing it from that perspective as well, like what an individual specific niche topic and bringing it forward like that that's why, like, I'm very.
And I have somebody in your network I could partner with actually for creators. I'm going to reach out to today, see if I don't know if he's available tonight, but in our LinkedIn live stream, I keep seeing him pop up. Mission Up, what was it called? He does the kind of the comic book graphic.
Don Terrell.
Right.
He does the color of motion. He brings on creators of color, and he highlights what they do. I love that. I love that niche about what he's done.
Yeah, because it's a real. You just never really see it on LinkedIn.
You don't.
I didn't know that there was animators, you know, on LinkedIn.
Huge. I mean, these are companies that are working for Pixar and Disney and DreamWorks. I mean, these aren't small, little individual.
Exactly.
These are people that are working for Sony. These are people that are working in huge industries. What's the
top?
Encanto.
Encanto.
Encanto. That was. I mean, that's why I say I push his show when people go tell them, go check out Don. Go check out Don. Go see what he does.
Yep.
That is, I said, his what he does and his reach and he's passionate about is what I love about being a creator. That inspires me every single time to continue to go over and over and over again.
I agree.
So, all right, brother, I gotta run.
All right, thank you, man.
Get some food, but I appreciate you, man. Anytime. Again, everybody else, thank you so much for being a part of this one on our special. We will be back tomorrow evening, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with our regular show. And I have 2 live shows that I'm going to be on tomorrow. So I got a fun day. Busy. So, all right, folks, we'll talk to you again soon. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, and get through together, everybody. You know what we do here. So, goodbye, everybody.